Mm. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start with item 2, approval of the April 28th, 2025 meeting summary.
And this is Chad at CAMPO. I just want to add that we updated this meeting summary online last week just to fully represent the two amended motions that were part of the motion at the last meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Chad. Does anyone have any questions? If not, I will take a motion.
Bob, move to approve.
Thank you, Bob. And a second?
Second.
Ed Collins.
I think I got Matt as the second.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. Any opposed? Very good. Motion carries. We'll move to item 3, discussion and recommendation on the final FY 2026 and 2027 Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP, and pass it to Teresa, please.
Good afternoon. This presentation is on the final fiscal year 2026 and 2027 UPWP. The UPWP is the Unified Planning Work Program that federally is required document that identifies the planning priorities and activities in the CAMPO region. Next slide, please. This presentation includes 2 fiscal years, fiscal year 2026 and 2027. We based our budget on $8.3 million of PL funds that we received from the FHWA for fiscal year 2025 and projected funds for fiscal year 2026. Next slide. The UPWP identifies 5 main work tasks, which include administration, data development and maintenance, short-range planning, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and special studies. We included planning studies from agencies in the CAMPO region. Those were included in task 4. Next slide, please. The final revisions, the major ones that we made, were on page 8. With the TxDOT guidance, we removed the Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration planning emphasis areas. Page 21, under task 3.1, we added $250,000 of PL funds for operating expenses. And on page 28, task 4.1, we revised the 2.5 set aside for fiscal year 2026, and we removed it for fiscal year 2027. Next slide, please. The final is presented here today. The final will be presented to the Transportation Policy Board on June 9th. This final UPWP is due to FHWA by August 1st, 2025. Next slide, please. So staff recommends or requests that the TAC recommend to the Transportation Policy Board approval of this final fiscal year 2026 and 2027 UPWP. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone have any questions, comments? Going once? No. No questions or comments. I'll take a motion. Don't be shy.
This is Ed Collins. I've moved for approval.
Thank you, Ed. And a second?
It's Russell Sander, I'll second.
Thank you, Russell. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Move to item 4, discussion and recommendation on the 2026-2029 call for projects for transportation set aside, TASA, and carbon reduction program, CRP funding. Ryan?
Thank you, Emily. So just bringing back we're kind of wrapping up the call for projects for transportation alternatives set aside and carbon reduction funding. And last month I did talk about the results of the readiness process and kind of a breakdown of those evaluation results. The projects that were considered ready have since been went through the project evaluation process. And I know about probably half of you were here back in 2017, 2018, last time we used it. So I wanted to kind of take a step back and talk about the project evaluation process that we use for the projects that are considered ready. These criteria and process were adopted by the policy board back in 2017. And essentially, we have project selection criteria for 7 different project categories. The categories are based on the most significant aspects of a project scope. I do want to point out that many of the projects include multiple elements of different categories, but they're encouraged to submit under the predominant aspects of the project. So we have roadway, ITS operations, transit, active transportation, TDM, transportation planning, and then another category, which is kind of a build your own category for projects that don't readily fit in any of the other projects. And then we do a planning factor analysis, which I'll talk about in the next slide, and then the cost benefit analysis. They're weighted typically 50-50 between the planning factors and the cost benefit analysis, with the exception of the active transportation category where it's 75-25. And then the transportation planning does not have a cost benefit analysis because the project hasn't been selected yet or developed yet at that point in the planning process. If you go to the next slide. This is just an example of the active transportation criteria. These are basically performance measures. The sponsors determine if a specific performance measure applies to their project to provide a summary in the application, and then along with supporting documentation. And then staff goes through and verifies that response by reviewing the response in the application and the supporting documentation. And then once it's confirmed, either if the performance measure is confirmed, then they receive the value of points up to a maximum of 100 points. And then on the next slide. And then this is a summary of the cost benefit analysis. There's a different process for each type of category. We look at the travel time savings and crash reduction for roadway, travel time savings and travel time reliability for ITS operations, and so on and so forth. But essentially, we look at the benefits both from a safety and congestion modeling efforts, and then we compare that with how expensive the project is. And that gives us a relative valuation of the project's value to the policy board. It's essentially a return on investment analysis of the projects in relation to travel time and safety. And so the next slide. And so the 10 projects that we move forward past the readiness process are the scores and ranks are here. The top ranked project was the Hero program expansion submitted by TxDOT. And then the second project, City of Cedar Park, we have a construction project for Lakeline Boulevard, a shared use path. We have a couple of studies, one from Great Springs, which is a Hunter Road Trail Connectivity and Development Study. Another study is also the Eanes Creek Trail Corridor study. The City of Georgetown received a recommendation on 2 construction projects, which is the FM 971 side paths. This is a part of a project that's in coordination with both Williamson County and TxDOT, and this will fund the side path piece of that construction scope. And then they have the 2 preliminary engineering requests for accessible intersections, as well as the RM 2243 Lander Road side paths. Actually, excuse me, 3 engineering requests, I believe. And then finally, Hays County, we're recommending 2 construction funding awards for a roundabout at RM 150 and RM 12. And then also some improvements along Old Kyle Road. This is a multimodal improvement in downtown Wimberley. And so we do, the highest ranked score was 75, with the lowest ranked score being a 54. A 54, though low, was not so low as to not warrant being recommended. If you'll go to the next slide, we do have enough funding for all of the projects that were considered ready. We had approximately $68 million between the two programs, the carbon reduction and TASA. The total for this recommendation will be close to $51 million. We'll be rolling over just under $1 million in carbon reduction funding, and then close to $17 million in TASA funding will roll over into the next project call, which will start up in about 3 months in August. This will be the call for projects for surface transportation block grant funding. But because we have some additional funds through this project call, that will be rolled over into that project call as well. I do want to point out, if you're looking at the full recommendation that was in your backup materials, the program funding represents only the federal funding amount. Those funds have been adjusted for inflation to the fiscal year that we are going to be scheduling these projects at. All the projects were submitted with current costs, and so we've inflated it either to fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27 at a 4% rate, which is the current TxDOT rate. I think the only other thing I want to point out, the amounts listed are only the federal funding amounts. There is a 20% local match that's not listed in that recommendation. All the projects that do get ultimately awarded by the policy board are subject to the continual progress policy. And so projects, even though they have passed readiness and we feel confident in that schedule, they still have to meet that schedule and get that work done in order to meet that schedule. So we'll be monitoring these projects like we do the others. And I think the only other thing I wanted to point out is that this funding award does assume federal program continuation. There has been a little discussion about the carbon reduction program in particular. Our current understanding is that program is going to continue as is, but reauthorization is coming up. And so we'll be monitoring that and bringing that back to the TAC and policy board if something changes. Right now, I think we are good. And obviously through this recommendation, we will be spending the majority of the funding that we anticipate to have available through that program. So with that, I think that was it. Staff, we are requesting that the TAC make a recommendation to the policy board regarding the process and resulting recommendation for this call for projects. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Ed, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I was wondering if this process would be an indicator that the ability for our agencies to implement projects when we left, $16-17 million on the table in this particular case. Wondering, will that carry over? Let's say not the funds, but will our agencies be able to meet the policies, I guess, and not leave any money on the table? That's just something to think about. I think maybe doing an analysis with our partners to find out why they submitted projects that didn't qualify, and maybe bringing that back to the TAC so we can talk about that as far as maybe recommendations that we don't want to ever leave money on the table, I think. I know this is not the case, but it takes several years or 4 or 5 years to do a project, and somehow we have to maybe meet those benchmarks so we can get those funds into the system. The longer they sit around, inflation is going to eat at them. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we might be able to improve our processes and make sure that we allocate all the funds when they become available.
Yeah, that's good. Can you turn up volume by any chance? Sorry, I had trouble catching some of that, but talking about improving, just getting projects ready.
Yeah, just talking with the entities that submitted projects. I'm sure you did, but maybe bring that back because we're going to have a much larger project call. And sometimes, learning from others what downfalls that they had, that they couldn't get the project. They submitted projects that weren't ready. It takes a lot of time to do the application, but if they have some guidance that will help them do a better project application, I think that will go a long way in making sure that we do allocate all the funds that are available, as opposed to having to carry over.
Okay, yeah, no, I can hear you a little bit better on that. Sorry, we just turned the volume up on the TV here. I do want to point out, we did meet with every single project sponsor and held debriefs with them, and they have an extensive report on the readiness aspects of their projects. And I think most of them had pretty straightforward fixes. And so I'm anticipating that that was one of the things with the debriefs and the readiness reports and why they were so in depth is that exactly this. I think, we don't want to leave money on the table, and, so hopefully they can turn around, make those adjustments and, resubmit. We're going to be using the same application and same process as we did for this one. So they'll actually in a sense, have a head start on the next project call, but they can certainly resubmit quickly and make those adjustments. And they have a detailed roadmap to do that with the debrief readiness assessment reports, because that's a really important thing. And I think education in general is a major, that is my job. I think when we do these project calls, for the 4 months that the project application is open, is educating. And there's a lot of information out there. And so hopefully over the summer, I've had a lot of discussions. Actually, I had one earlier this morning with a sponsor because they're looking to submit and just kind of talking through the projects that they have. I think, want everyone to understand that, we are a resource here too. And anything we can do to help get these projects, ready. I think readiness is really kind of the threshold nowadays. And it's especially critical, I think, with these programs where funding does lapse if we don't use it. But that's a really good point. And then, the more I'll probably be talking about it ad nauseum to the TAC over the next few months as we get ready and go through this process. But I do want to encourage anyone too who is looking to submit all the materials from this previous project call are still online. The webinars are online. Please read the guide to project selection. It's about a 50-page guide. Just sit down and read through the entire thing, because there are a lot of detailed instructions in there. And if you follow instructions, you got a good chance of getting through readiness. So I think that's just a really important thing there. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do have one other question. It's related to the HERO program. Could you describe how it's being extended? I see it on the map, but I don't know what the current program covers. Is it going further out into the outlying areas, or is it beefing up existing areas?
Yeah, it's gonna. I think it's gonna expand out to 620 and 360. I think. I don't know if TechStot's on, if they want to jump on that question.
So it's geographic end time. It's because it's not 24 hours a day. Now the hours will increase.
I don't know if you heard that, Ed. The hours will increase, so it'll be run 24/7 as well. I need to go back and look at the application again. So adding a few facilities as well. So.
Well, that's good. It impacts quite a larger region, and I think we're going to need it with all the things that are happening, all the different construction projects that we're having that are on our major corridors. So that's great that this program will still be there and be expanded.
Yeah, and this will fund it for about 2 years at the expanded level, which is not very long. I guess 2 years is going to fly by, but it's a 2-year. It's a physical expansion of the program, but it's just a 2-year continuation of it. So yeah, we're excited to fund that one though.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Michelle?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm just, so you know, sitting in as alternate for Richard Mendoza, City of Austin today. So my first meeting, forgive me if I step outside the bounds of your normal practices as a newbie. Just a couple of questions. So first off, thanks for that comment about the opportunity for projects that were not accepted to submit additional information and be reconsidered with the upcoming SPDG call later this year. I appreciate that. That seems pretty important given it looks like 2/3 of the submissions were deemed not ready. So that's a pretty high number. So that's going to be really, I think, a helpful learning experience. My question really is, with the rollover of the almost $18 million not allocated for this call, is there any risk to not awarding that now and pushing that to roll over to a future call that we should be thinking about?
Not at this time. That is a very good question, because CASA does expire 4 years after it gets apportioned to the region. But with the current recommendation and if those, assuming those stay on schedule, and being obligated within 2026, we're not at risk anytime soon. Especially like, yeah, we're in good shape right now. I don't think we're at risk of lapse for the next probably 4 years. So we are good and to go through this next budget call and allocate the funding there as well. So but that's a very good question though, and a good point.
Okay, so the primary thing I'm hearing that you're suggesting that we might just lose a 6 months of delivery timeline?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, with it rolling into what is it, 17 million rolling into the next project call, that's not going to risk lapsing for another 4 years. So we're in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay. Cole?
Yeah, thanks. Quick question, kind of to Ed's point about education. Will the successful applications be available to TAC members to learn from, to see how we can kind of adjust our future project submittals? I think there were a few that were similar to those at face value that moved forward. So we just want to make sure as a learning opportunity how to fix our applications to match those that move forward.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I actually asked a couple of the sponsors if we could use their applications as examples, and I've gotten a couple of affirmatives on that. What I'll probably do is use those examples and kind of make them a little more general. But I definitely, that's a really good thing to bring up because I do want to provide as many examples as I possibly can that were successful. So, because we got some really good ones that are in there that I think would be fantastic. I don't want everybody to copy them, obviously, because every project is unique, but very good references, I think, for people to draw inspiration from as they put together their applications. So we can certainly do that for you.
Awesome. That would be helpful. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? Nope. Not, I will take a motion.
This is Ed Collins. I recommend approval of staff recommendation.
Thank you, Ed. And a second?
This is Randy Skinner. I'll second.
Thanks, Randy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move to item 5, report on transportation planning activities.
And this is Chad again. We have a couple of reports here. We'll start with Nick.
Yep. Hey, everyone. Just a quick update on the Regional Safety Action Plan. Many of you are probably aware, but a number of our county safety action plans have either been drafted or will be made available very soon to the task forces. So look out for that if you've not seen it yet. A number of our counties are also looking to adopt or to approve a resolution to support those plans, which is going to be helpful for the local governments that are looking to apply for this round of SS4A funds. So we have some draft resolution language. If anybody's interested in having that for your own use, if you're considering adopting your county's safety action plan. We are planning a third round of public outreach this summer, starting in early June, going to about mid-July. And that's going to focus mostly on the regional safety analysis and some of the recommendations at the regional level as well. And so we're all on track right now to have a draft regional safety action plan for the mid-August timeframe. So more on that in the coming months. But yeah, any questions, I guess, if anyone has at the moment?
Any questions? Doesn't look like it.
All right, Will?
Yeah, just a quick update for me. The 2050 Regional Transportation Plan was adopted by the Transportation Policy Board last Monday. So I wanted to thank everybody on the TAC for your collaboration and thoughtful comments throughout the process. Really enjoyed working with you all through the process. And I just wanted to also note that following adoption, the board set up two committees made up of board members to discuss topics related to the RTP and TIP. One committee will discuss evaluation and prioritization criteria used for the TIP and RTP, and the other committee will discuss matters related to the travel demand model. Both of these are in the early stages. I don't have many more details of that. Ashley, do you want to add anything to that? But you'll hear more about those two committees in the coming future.
That's all the announcements we have here.
Okay, thank you. And thank you on, it was good to see the RTP pass. I know that was a big lift. So thank you and the CAMPO team for getting that through. That's a long process. Move to item 6, which is the TAC chair announcements. The next policy board meeting will be on June 9th at 2, and the next TAC meeting comes up on June 23rd. And with that, we will adjourn today's meeting at 2:26. Thanks, everyone.